So thanks so much for joining us, Marcus. I'm wondering if you could first start by kind of telling me a little bit about yourself, but also focusing on your journey kind of through the construction industry.
So I started off in the construction industry about 18 years ago. As an electrician, I started as an apprentice electrician. I worked for about 10 years on the tools. I became a master electrician through the course of that. And then I decided to go into project management. I worked I've been working for about now about 9-10 years out in project management as well. So yeah, that's basically, I've gone from subcontracting, electrical subcontracting, and now I work for a general contractor as an M&E manager. So I manage mechanical, electrical scopes, and I've worked a lot with the different digital platforms to manage construction, and I I've been just throughout construction dealing a lot with different types of digital platforms.
Cool. Okay. So what was it that kind of first attracted you to the construction industry? And then after that, I guess, what more specifically attracted you to project management?
So to the construction industry as a whole, I don't remember. It's been so long. But I I um I'm good with my hands. I like using tools. I don't know. I got kind of asked to help out on a project with an electrician, and kind of liked what I was doing and went from there. So really, it was almost like trial and error that kind of it um, defined where I was going. And then project management was more of a decision. Um, I looked at the different people around me and who I was working for. I was working for an older electrician that had been on the tools for many years, and I didn't feel like I wanted to be 65 and still going up a ladder. So um, I said, you know what, let me try and see if I can get a job as a project manager. And so that was really what drove me. I got the opportunity to work with a large electrical contractor in Toronto, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So you mentioned that, you used to be good with your hands, or you might still be, and then you kind of wanted to move past that stage and be going up less ladders, as you put it. So I'm wondering, what are the most important skills that you use on a regular basis as a project manager? And are those different from the skills that you use as an electrician, or different than the skills you thought you would be using as a project manager?
Um, I definitely think that there's, like, as to your first question is in terms of skills, computer skills are very important. I think that, we kind of overlooked, and I've gotten used to it. I'm not the best, but I'm fairly, technical in a way, and I use um, some of the skills in terms of how to approach different things, similar to what I would do it as an electrician. Um, how to assess different issues or different problems, especially when I was dealing with houses and existing houses, existing buildings. You always have to assess what came before you and what you wanna achieve. So it's very similar in that regard. Um, regarding regarding I would say the skills that I use nowadays as opposed to what I used before is, obviously it's a lot more labor intensive as being an electrician, but you use some of the analytical um, skill sets definitely are very important, and you assess situations, and um, every situation is different, obviously. And what I would say is you have to break it down very similar to you would be breaking down electricals. When you install something, it's piece by piece, and you have to break it down. Um, and it's very similar in project management. Same thing. You got to break it down smaller doses. To manage $30 million worth of scope of work is daunting, but when you break it down and every single scope is a little part of that, it's a little bit easier.
For sure, I bet. Is that something that you've developed the ability to while you've been in the role? Do you feel like you were already pretty analytical going in, or has this been a process of continually incrementally improving?
I think it's a combination of both. I definitely had an analytical mind. Growing up, I definitely feel like I was taught how to think analytically through my upbringing, and it you never stop growing. I became when I went into project management, I said, I need to continue that education, and I became PMP, with project management professional, and then I took some courses on lead building, right, green building, and became a lead AP, accredited professional. And so you're always continuously learning, and you really, if you have that drive, then you can really learn anything. It's just a matter of you know um, putting in the effort to do it.
Absolutely. So I've heard actually a decent bit about the PMP and LEED, both being popular certifications in the construction industry. I'm wondering, was that more of an internal push for you that you wanted to just go get those to maybe prove yourself or acquire a bit more expertise, or was that kind of a organizational push where you saw others in the industry kind of pushing you towards that?
I definitely did. I pushed it myself. I felt that not having the you background in terms of education, that's typical in upper management, where you have your business people, you have your university graduates, you have certain undergraduate degrees and then graduate degrees. I'm always looking to better improve myself in that regard, and that was one of the ways that I felt that it was important for me. And even now, I'll continue to look at different things and try and improve. I talked with a company the other day that talks about smart buildings and accrediting smart buildings, and becoming a smart building, I guess you would say, consultant in some regard. And they have like an AP program very similar to LEED for smarter buildings. And so those are things that were um, not really pushed on me, and it's more I advocated to try and get them.
Well, that's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about the subcontractor contractor relationship, because you've kind of been on both sides of that. So I'm wondering, when you're working with a new crew or new team members, what have you personally found to be the best way to build rapport and trust with them and get working cohesively as a single unit or team?
I think the biggest thing is not using email. um, I find face-to-face communication, and it's a matter of building trust, and it's really understanding where they're coming from and how they're coming from. Um, it's very, I would say, common in the general contracting side to push your subcontractors, um, to meet schedule or to meet costs or to meet certain limitations. The issue is a lot of the times you're pushing unrealistic goals, and you have to understand from their side, and I've been on their side, why those limitations are not very realistic, and how can you make them realistic? How can you make them more in tune with what the reality is going to be? Um, and that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think that once you develop that trust between a subcontractor and a contractor, it creates a smoother transition. And aligning those expectations are really important right at the beginning.
That makes a lot of sense. So building off that point a little bit, you mentioned how important getting communication right can be, and specifically avoiding some methods of communication such as email. So I'm wondering if there's any other methods you've found to be the most effective at communicating while needing to keep so many different stakeholders involved and informed. I know you said, really emphasizing that face-to-face aspect of it, but are there other methods that you've adopted or seen and found that work at a better efficiency, I guess?
I wouldn't say there's nothing better than face to face. I would say that that's definitely priority number one. I think that communication in general is a really tough thing for a lot of people. They're hesitant because they find that it's their risk, the risk for being caught doing something, or being I don't know what the word is, but people find that they can dig up an old email that says I can do something or I can't do something, and they use that against them, and it's very unfortunate. So that's why I feel that the face-to-face communication is the easiest for both parties. But I think that just constant communication, just constant understanding where somebody is, why they're there, what they're trying to achieve, is really important. I find some subcontractors push back on it, and I understand their hesitation, because they find that people use it against them. But if you create that level of communication, it at the end of the day, everybody benefits. But I find emails or notifications from digital platforms, some are very good, some are really cumbersome, and there's sorry, I just got a call in the middle. No, you try and balance it, and it's really it's a balance between the two.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, we talked a little bit about handling some disagreements, and so specifically relating to communication, stuff like that. So I'm wondering, on just a broader sense, how do you handle disagreements or confrontations amongst members of the different teams that you may be involved in, or amongst members of the teams themselves? Like, how do you best go about managing that?
I find it, again, it goes back to communication. It's really understanding where each party's at, and trying to really allow each team to see the other person, and what they stand for. Everybody wants to make money in construction. That's a main goal, for everybody. And it's not something to shy away from, because a lot of people are shying away. Oh, you're doing this because you want to make money. And the answer is yes, you're right. That's why I'm doing it this way. There's nothing, nothing taboo about that. That's part of construction. That's why we do what we do, is in order so that we are both successful. And what I find is that if you understand that concept, and you understand the concept that a deal is, one of the companies that I used to work for, one of their values, their true values, and I felt that this really talked, is no negotiation and no deal is good unless both parties are happy, right? You have to make sure that both parties understand the other. And are they going to be happy? Not necessarily, but at least they'll understand why the other person is doing what they're doing. And if they understand that, it softens the blow sometimes. And the next time they're able to negotiate a little bit better, because they're able to understand, okay, this is why we're doing it. So I find that conflict in construction is inevitable. But you just have to take it one step at a time, break it down into little bits and pieces, and try and negotiate as best as possible. And at the end of the day, I've seen lawsuits that are in the millions of dollars, and nobody's happy, but you hope that somebody comes out happier than they went in. So it's the nature of the beast.
I think that'll really resonate with a lot of people about trying to find that common ground and that mutual point of understanding and discussion. So I'm wondering, you touched a little bit on this earlier about your background coming through the trades and more so as an electrician, and then how some of the people at the level of product manager will be from more so business backgrounds or from with different perspectives. I'm wondering, do you find that it's difficult to find common ground when you have so many people coming from different backgrounds and different experiences at that level of project management or senior leadership? Or do you think that helps build a better environment?
I think that it helps build a better environment, but I also think that there's a lot of difficulty sometimes when you have tradespeople that have one perspective and you have business people that have a totally different perspective. And I think it's bridging that gap. Um, I find it's a lot easier to, um, and this is a biased, representation because I came from that side, but I find that it's a lot easier to train somebody in management if they've done the trades as opposed to somebody who's not. Even somebody who's a technical background or does, BIM or CAD or a consultant side, design side. It's a lot harder for them to understand the limitations on labor, understand the limitations on schedule, understand the urgency of schedule, understand the urgency of project management as a whole. But that's not to say that they can't, right? And everybody has a different skill set, and they bring in a lot of information from there, and in terms of design and the limitations on that side. I don't know, I guess it's my personal preference. It's like, it's a lot easier to draw a line on a CAD drawing as opposed to actually building. So, that line can represent something that's significantly, a significant scope of work that the designer or the engineer or the consultant doesn't really understand.
That makes a lot of sense. So in talking with people that have more so specific experiences and backgrounds, kind of like you do, we sometimes hear about these ideas of peer groups or communities where people can kind of gather together and discuss common grievances, but also maybe some approaches they're taking to the workforce. I'm wondering, do you participate in any of those, and B, do you see those as valuable resources?
I definitely am interested in it. I haven't really done it. I've definitely, I tried a number of years unsuccessfully to get onto like a green building committee. I think that there is value. I think that it has to be done properly, and it's got to be done with with the right mindset. Are you going to change the industry? No, but can you make it better? Yeah, there's definitely value to that. I think that continuing education courses or seminars or stuff like that are very, very important and very valuable, because people just get pigeonholed into a job and they don't really see everything else. So even if it's not necessarily to make things different, I think that people learn certain skills, and even if you get one person out of 30 that changes the way they do something, it's valuable. If they make it more efficient or make their company make more money, at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do.
Of course, and that's always good to keep in mind, I'm sure, when having these kind of situations. So this next one is a two-pronged question, so don't feel the need to dive too much into the first part. I'm wondering, do you find your job stressful?
Yes.
Okay, that is a very common response we hear from people at the project management level. So the second part to it, which is maybe the one where you can dive a bit deeper into it, is how do you handle the stress of your job? Have you adopted specific practices maybe that you think helps you get through your day? Have you, I don't want to say stolen any from anyone, but maybe been inspired by how others deal with it? Or how do you best deal with the stress involved in your job?
I can honestly say I'm not very good at it, but I try my best. I definitely think I think any job is stressful. If you don't have the right support, you don't have the right people around you, any job is stressful. There's a lot of stress in terms of schedule, in terms of contracts, in terms of, money that are, in the Toronto market, as you probably know, is a huge, huge amount of dollars and cents that, real estate in general deals with. And, you know, you really are sometimes, depending on the different contracts, you're nickel and diming, and definitely gets very stressful. Um, I deal with it in multiple ways. Alcohol is really good. No, I'm just joking. But if it's a really bad day, I'll take a walk. Try and get out of the office. I'll try and um, try and close my door and get some other work done to deal with it. Try not to respond to emails too quickly and develop a proper, you know, holistic, response, and how we can really move forward as opposed to, pointing backwards. Um, it, I don't know, I'm no psychologist, so I don't really know, but it really just trying to release that tension, right? I play hockey sometimes when we're allowed to, and um, baseball, or deal with my kids and try and just relieve that sort of stress that way.
Well, it's good that you've got a solid list of remedies that you know, because that's always important, being able to deal with it on your own. And so this is just my last question for you. I first want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this and give some very well articulated and insightful answers. So throughout your time as a project manager, I'm wondering what's been the biggest lesson related to leadership that you've personally learned?
I wouldn't say there's any one that in particular. I would say there's definitely a few that I would point out as number one is support the people that work for you. It's one of the biggest things that I find is lacking. Um, there's a concept out there, servant leadership. That's really I've bought into it. I think that it's important to create expectations for yourself and for your team. Um, but as a leader, I think one of the biggest challenges is keeping calm and keeping your level headed. But communication is the key. Is really the key. Is creating that level of communication so that you have that level of trust. Um, Trust cannot be built on emails back and forth with subcontractors or contractors or whoever, because people read into them differently, they understand them differently. A phone call, a coffee, a beer, something to create that level of camaraderie in a project. Projects are really, really complicated these days, and the more you create that level of I got your back if you got my back, really will help the construction industry as a whole. Because there's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of, I don't got my back, I don't got your back, so we're gonna end up fighting at the end, and it's just not gonna be successful. So that's the biggest thing that I find. But there's quite a few qualities in terms of leadership that I aspire to, and those are just a few of them.
Well, that's awesome. I think that a lot of those are very applicable to leadership outside of construction, not just specific to construction as well. So hopefully they're very applicable and helpful to people in a range of different industries and roles.
Yeah,
Again,
no, definitely feel that they are.
absolutely. So again, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today, and have this discussion with me. It was, again, like really insightful, very valuable, and like that you express a lot of interesting and really pertinent ideas specifically to construction right now. So I just want to say thank you again so much and express how much we appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thanks. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your week.
You too.
Bye.